Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another happy hour in which I just talk about my problems.
Okay.
Yeah, shall we do that? Before we start, of course, we are not currently being sponsored by anything we are talking about. Unless they do, then, you'll hear the sponsorship. But right now, not necessarily. Also, if you are partaking of happy hour ritual and consuming of adult beverages or such, do so responsibly. We want you to be healthy, y'all. Anney, are you sipping on anything?
Nothing special.
Nothing special. But if you're drinking it, it's special.
No, thank you. I'm drinking cold coffee, and I actually remember today that I used to have a saying with my friends: when the coffee is cold, the conversation is done. So,
well, damn.
So Samantha, I'll be going now.
Oh no! Say. Yes. Well, I am drinking some bubble water with some electrolytes because I'm gonna try to stay hydrated. Like a hydrated queen over here. So today I decided I wanted to talk a little bit about my introversion because recently, I don't know if y'all heard, today is, by the way, June 17th, 2025. So the day we're recording, this comes out on Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. To those who celebrate. Loves you. But what we just had the No Kings protests all over the country, and millions of people showed up. In Atlanta, thousands of people showed up and came to the rally. They maxed out the area that was reserved for us, and then they were out in the street and pouring out. So it was a beautiful thing to see. One of the things that I had gone back and forth about was, because we've been talking about all of our ailments that have happened between Anney and I, which, seems to always happen in clusters. I don't know. We are really connected, Anney.
Too.
We are really connected. I don't know if it's a good thing, but we sure are connected.
Yeah.
Anyway, but with that, so I've had a lot of issues with some pinched nerves and pain in all these other ways. And yes, y'all, I have actually seen the doctor 3 different times.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Still in pain a little bit, but it's okay. We're figuring things out. We're figuring it out. But with that, I was thinking maybe I shouldn't go to these protests because I was not feeling well. It's been a lot painful. I've not been exercising, which is unusual for me. I love my dance crew and my like Zumba classes, and I have not gone. So it says a lot for me not to go because I will try to go no matter what. I would rather do that than even social hangouts. Sorry, friends. But with that, on top of that, I went back and forth. And a part of the things this could be, I will admit, an excuse to not go because I don't want to be out with the crowds. I was very nervous. I was very, very freaked out trying to figure out what all to do. The anxiety of I got to park somewhere. Where do I park? How can I leave? What happens here? If we do get arrested, what do I need to do? My partner's not here. Who's my emergency contact? So many things are going through my head. And at one point I did go. And we were standing in the middle of the crowd. A good friend of mine was next to me, and she knows me very well. She's known me from college. We were listening, and it was getting hot, and we were heating. It was very crowded, obviously. We had a good crowd, which was great. At one point, though, she turns to me, she was like, "How overstimulated are you?" Genuinely. I was like, "Very much." And that's all I could say. And then the girl in front of me turned around, she goes, "Oh my God, me too." That's kind of the moment. And then everything went down and people did decide to march. I just physically could not stay in there for much longer because just not being able to move, all of that has a thing. So, but I did go, and there was a lot of things that's crossed my mind in that, again, a lot of part of I'm kind of glad I was not super healthy in that I had an excuse to leave, which made me feel guilty. So I really thought about the fact that, yes, I've become more of an introvert. I wouldn't say I'm a complete introvert, even though in my mind I'm becoming more and more, and I would more identify with that than I would say being an extrovert for sure. But with that, how do introverts do in activism? What do the ideas go for those types of people? Because it's a struggle in such a different way with people who have anxiety, with people who have OCD, with people who have all these different types of mental health that really just block them from being able to do things. And then in turn, that becomes guilt. And of course, I needed to find out if there was any articles about that. And there are tons of articles. One specifically from introvertdear.com, which is fantastic. I was like, all right, well, they've gotten me 2 lists. And one was talking about the introvert guilt, about not hanging out with people, wanting to be social, but not being able to do so, feeling like you're hurting people's feelings if you don't do things right or do things immediately or be a part of something. Like there's so much to that. There's another article, which I thought was interesting, written by that person. You're welcome. Written by Suzanne Berger, who talks about the fact that it could be also called, specifically with activism, moral distress. And I was like, oh, so apparently a philosopher named Andrew Jameson called it a moral distress. It's this idea that institutional or systemic barriers prevent us from acting with integrity. And so therefore we feel like, oh my God, we failed. Like we are the worst people in the world. And I know you know, introverts, what I'm talking about, because it's that back and forth. And then the guilt either way of afterwards, because I'm so awkward. I made that event worse. I'm so, all these things that I'll have that conversation. And then like, you feel like you have to make excuses with your friends. I can't come out because of these things. Which most of the time, again, if I'm making excuses, they're probably true. They're true. They're true. They're true. But it's definitely feeling still guilty that they don't believe you or you're making excuses. And I'll again, coming today with this activism on top of the layers of anxiety, being overwhelmed with the news, feeling like you can't do enough, feeling like there's nothing you can do, feeling like you're so overwhelmed with all of the bad things that what you're doing is not enough, even if you are doing things. So there's so much to be said in this conversation. And again, y'all, it's constantly in the back of my head. And a part of like being even more so of an introvert, keeping isolated to myself, feels like it's making it worse. And again, I will say, so my partner has been gone for a couple of weeks now, having to do things, and it feels weird. And I was just telling Anney before we got on how I've lost all track of space and time. Mm-hmm. Because not my normal, I'm putting this in quotes, pattern, daily routine is now out the window even more so. Mm-hmm. And so it feels so overwhelming. And I'm just, because I feel like even though I was already online, chronically online, I am more so now because I don't have the person that I talk to, or like, and we talk on the phone all the time, don't get me wrong, but it's still not the same as him coming downstairs or me going upstairs or us eating together, deciding food or deciding if we need to go out or not, or if we like having someone to buy groceries for, because I'm the one who goes out for all that. It just is gone kind of right now. So I feel even more like in towards myself, even more introverted. And so as activism and things are going online, and I don't know if it's the timing or again, if it's more, I have time on my hands of seeing all these kidnappings of immigrants and refugees that we're seeing, all these new laws coming into place, all these new war crimes that are happening, all of these scary assassinations, so much that it feels like I need to do something. But again, I don't want to be out there. I don't want to talk to people. Talking on the phone sounds like hell. So what can we do? I say very quietly. There have been people who do talk about this as an issue. And again, we're going to introvertdear.com, who talks about being an activist while being a quiet introvert. And 3 of the things that they say you can be an activist is participate in the ways that feel best to you, even if that means working behind the scene. And I think that's not said enough about working behind the scene. Talking about whether it's helping with funding, which I think is so important. Unfortunately, they need funding. People need funding to get resources out, talk about governmental stuff. I hate that. There can't be change unless that's happening. Funding things that are being defunded, is really important as well. They talked about and I love this too, helping to make signs and banners, even if you're not going, to assisting others. Because unfortunately for me, I have no art talent, but if I did, that would be an amazing way. I really am suck at that too. Also bad at puns, which apparently is a thing. And that's the way but also the way that we can help. We can also talk about so much more when it comes about behind the scenes. I can't even think about it right now because I'm overwhelmed with trying to think about the art signs. There are so many signs, Anney. And then talking about knowing and expressing your boundaries. Again, I think that's maybe where I get uncomfortable, that when I try to push my boundaries, I feel even more vulnerable and really, really out of sync with myself, which is something that I need to think about. And then also they talk about don't forget about your creature comforts / earplugs. That's what I forgot. Because when something gets really loud and I get overstimulated, I do shut down. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of what happened. And I really, because also when there's other noises, because we're outside at a rally, people are talking and pumped up, and we had amazing speakers, and then people would go behind me chanting things, and I was like, what's happening? And then apparently there was another rally that was happening because they couldn't be in the same rally, but I could hear both. I should have had earplugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's probably obvious, but I didn't think about that. Also doing things that are sustainable. Again, doing things that are not going over. I get so excited with ideas, but then I get very, very quickly burned out because it becomes so overwhelming, and it feels like it's taking on too much, and I don't ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a whole other problem. Focusing on everything, focusing on what you're doing and what the moment is. And I guess I forget that, honestly, our job partially is also activism. I forget that often.
I do too, but I have to say, in light of my recent health events, yep. Oh, this is very stressful to read about this.
It really is. It really is. To not be able to disconnect from it is really hard. I literally went through several things. I'm like, okay, we can talk about this. We can talk about this. We can talk about this. But if we talk about normal day issues, I feel like we're failing the today issues. There's so many issues to be covered, but things like this is important. They also I think we forget too that one of our jobs, and I hope we do it well. I hope we do it in consciousness, holding a safe space. So bringing people who are doing that work in activism already out there, who are known for it, to be able to be a part of the show, or who are doing activism and need more of a platform, that we're able to give this platform to them. That is a part of the activism, and that is a part of the activism for so many, whether it's people just reposting, I guess, that are really good information, talk about your rights, immigrants' rights and what you need to know about that, protesters' rights, what you need to know about that, groups like the solidarity.org funds for different organizations. Those are really important to look at and understand. Trying to weed out the disinformation is also really hard work and important work. There's a lot that we can do, and I think we sometimes ignore that. I ignore that because I get so overwhelmed at the bigger picture, the louder picture, and feel like I'm failing. But there's definitely a lot to be out there. So to my other introverts, to my ambiverts who just get tired and overstimulated, to my anxious peoples, you're doing a great job. If only that you are at least acknowledging the disinformation, misinformation, as well as the horrendousness of what is happening, and advocating for the people that need you, that we need to be advocating for our queer people, for our trans people, for our refugees, for those with immigrant parents and those who are immigrants. There's so much out there that we need to talk about for those who are going through a genocide. There's a lot to have this conversation. Whether it's you're boycotting something, that is amazing. You're doing great, sweetie. You're doing great. And it does work if we actually do it as a collective. So that's my encouragement. Also my whining moment. Also some of that advice. If you want any of these articles, I pulled out about 4 of them that really are great in how they tell you to take care of yourself so that you can help others. And I think, again, we forget that often. When we're depleted and drained, we are no longer of help to anyone.
Yep.
We're just trying to figure out how to stay at the hospital, aren't we, Anney?
Yep. Yeah. But listeners, I know so many people, you can relate to this. And I know we even talked before about just a general accessibility issues at things like this and why we shouldn't forget that there are all these other ways to participate. So if you would like to share any of your stories or advice or whatever with us, great puns, perhaps, you can. We would love to hear from you. You can email us at hello@stuffInevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You. We're also on YouTube, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite shows.